Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Triangles Meditation Group. Today is Monday, November 1st, 2021. And let's begin with just a brief moment of silence to come together as a group, and followed by the sounding of the Noontime Recollection. We know, O Lord of light and love, about the need. Touch our hearts anew with love, that we too may love and give. So the work we do together each week is to introduce this work, this planetary service of triangles, to people who are new to it and to aid them in the forming of triangles and thus becoming part of this planetary network. And the other reason we meet together is to participate in a meditative visualization in the support and strengthening of this network, and thereby releasing its lighted energies to humanity. Triangles is a simple visualization technique using the power of thought and prayer to uplift and transform consciousness. It's simply the establishing of lines of lighted, loving communication between three people who agree to link up together each day, and to then, once they circulate the energies around their triangle, then they link in consciousness with all people throughout the world who are likewise members of triangles. And then they visualize the energies being distributed, encompassing the entire planet, and then distributing them through the use of the great invocation, a world prayer, which is a wonderful tool for releasing the energies of light, love, and power into the minds and hearts of all people who can respond to it. So this work only takes a few minutes each day, and it can therefore be fit into even the busiest of schedules. So if you feel interested in this work, you can put your name in the chat box, and perhaps two other members of the webinar will agree to form a triangle with you. You can also go to our website, triangles.org, and find a link to a bulletin board where you can find Triangles partners from around the world. So if you still have some trouble finding a partner, you can write to us in New York or London or Geneva, and we will try and find partners for you. So if you want to form a triangle, you should be able to do so. So today we have a triangle of participants. Dot Maver, who many of you will know from many previous appearances on this webinar and from all of the other work that she's been doing. And she's going to be sharing a little bit about the practice of Global Silent Minute, preparing us for the third annual Global Silent Minute, started in 1919 at the festival week. And so now the group is gearing up towards this year's solstice. And we'll also be hearing from Wendy Thompson, who works very closely with Dot and was a co-founder of Global Silent Minute. Wendy is a producer, director, screenwriter, educator, playwright, and a director of a unit of service called Sydney Goodwill. She's produced a number of award-winning films through her company, Serious Films, and for the past 2 decades has designed, taught, and led programs at Australia's National Screen and Broadcasting Academy. And then we will be hearing from Antonella Nobilio, who is from Italy, and she's been a longtime researcher and student of the Ageless Wisdom teachings for the past 3 decades, focusing on Bailey, Roerich, and Blavatsky. And since 1991, Antonella has been part of an esoteric group organized as an international system of systems based on the 7 rays and 7x7 paradigm. And more information about this group can be found on the online group called the Planetary System, TPS. And we'll be putting that link in the chat box at some point during the webinar, and welcome you to investigate Antonella's interesting work. So now let's just do as we always do and begin with a brief meditation, a visualization. Let's visualize the planet as a sphere of lighted energy. And within that sphere, visualize a triangle of light composed of the 3 planetary centers. The planetary head center, Shambhala. Hierarchy, the planetary heart. And humanity, the planetary throat center. Visualize each of these spheres radiating and see their spheres blending and merging one with the other, filling the triangle with light. And at the center of the sphere, the synthetic point, visualize the 5-pointed star of the world teacher, blending east and west, past and future, filling the triangle with light. At each point of the star, the sphere of his activity stands an outpost of his consciousness, the 5 planetary centers. Visualize the energies radiating forth from the center of the star through the 5 points. London, Darjeeling, New York, Geneva, Tokyo, visualize these outpouring energies enlivening small groups, gathering everywhere, aiding them to focus and direct the energies into the consciousness of all humanity, solving its problems, creating right human relations, restoring peace on earth. We reach into the hierarchy and sound the invocation of light. Radiance, we are, and power. We stand forever with our hands stretched out, linking the heavens and the earth, the inner world of meaning and the subtle world of glamour. We reach into the light and bring it down to meet the need. We reach into the silent place and bring from thence the gift of understanding. Thus, with the light, we work and turn the darkness into day. Oh. So as mentioned, we will be hearing from our our guest speakers about the Global Silent Minute. And this is a good time to prepare for that because we're entering into a new cycle, really around the time of this coming weekend when we have our seminar, our Goodwill seminar, which I should have mentioned earlier, but hopefully Michael will put a link to that. This Saturday, we're having a seminar focused in our 3 centers. In Geneva, we'll begin the work, then London, and then New York. And so we hope wherever you are found within the world, you can join in with this event. And we always try and hold these seminars in the sign of Scorpio, which is opposite to our focus during their conference in New York, at least, the WASAC festival held in the sign of Taurus. So we're working now with Scorpio, and in the spring, we're working with Taurus. And as many of you will know, this is an axis that is really governing the new group of world servers. So as we seek to deepen our understanding of the work of that group, it would help us to ponder on this polarity, this horizontal axis of the cross of discipleship, the fixed cross. So the new group stands as the group that reaches out with the energies that are inpouring from the vertical axis of that cross of Aquarius and Leo. So the vertical axis brings in the energy of the spiritual hierarchy, that center of light, creating a bridge in consciousness. And then the horizontal axis is the new group who serve to ground and bridge between that center and humanity. And so as you can imagine, it's a difficult task that this group has set before it. And our work together in triangles forms part of what's called the heart center of that group. Groups such as Global Silent Minute and myriads of groups throughout the world all form part of that heart. And one of our, objectives as a group standing within the heart is to bring through that energy of life that pours in from the spiritual hierarchy to strengthen the hands of that group. That used to be one of our keynotes, and it still is an overall keynote of the work that we undertake, not only at this Goodwill seminar time of the year, but also at each new moon to strengthen the hands of the new group of world servers. And that strengthening is needed tremendously at this time, this difficult transition as we approach the important year of 2025. All of the strength that we can share with our coworkers is needed and gratefully accepted. It's interesting to consider a cycle in spiritual year which relates to this Scorpio Taurus axis. It was an ancient teaching, and it's still just as vital today. We all know that the spiritual year is divided up into different sections, 12 signs, the new moon, the full moon, the equinoxes, and the solstices. But we don't often give as much attention to another subset there, which was that between each, we start with the spring equinox and then we have the summer solstice. But there's a point a midway point between those two, which the ancients have always observed as a potent point. And that usually occurs at around 15 degrees of each of the fixed signs. So 15 degrees of Scorpio is the first one, of Taurus is the first one. Then we move on to around 15 degrees of Leo. Then we move to 15 degrees of Scorpio, and then to 15 degrees of Aquarius. These points also coincide with potent fixed stars in the heavens. And so it's important to keep this in mind as we work now with this upcoming Goodwill seminar, which this year focalizes around that one of those points, the Scorpio point. So these 4 points, along with the 4 equinox and solstice points, divide the wheel into 8, and 8 being closely related to the Christ and also to the sign of Scorpio, demonstrates the importance, particularly of this period between now, the midpoint of Scorpio, and the winter solstice, or the solstice in December for our Southern Hemisphere people. This period, each of these 8 segments of the spiritual year correspond to the different phases of the moon. There are 8 primary phases to the moon. So this final phase, as we move towards the solstice, is really related to the period moving towards the new moon. And as we know, when we move towards the new moon, as we are now in this cycle, the energies become dark. This pushes us into the inner realms, those transformative energies, particularly in Scorpio, which are known as the chrysalis phase, which we don't really understand. There's incredible transmutation that takes place in the depths during this time. So as we move towards this final 6 weeks of this cycle in the year, this final phase in the cycle, it's said to be one of the most creative periods. Might be challenging for many on the outer planes, but those of us who can try to work with the more subjective energies involved can find it to be most productive of creativity. So we'll hear more about this from Dot and Wendy and Antonella. So now let's move into our meditation. Let's visualize ourselves lifting to the mental plane and focusing in the center of the evened arm cross, this cross of discipleship. We lift the energies from humanity and the lower kingdoms, and we breathe in the energies from the soul. And as we stand within that point, we invoke the highest center using our mantra, the affirmation of will. Project a line of lighted energy towards that center and say, in the center of the will of God, I stand. Naught shall deflect my will from his. I implement that will by love. I turn towards the field of service. I, the triangle divine, work out that will within the square and serve my fellow men. Using the creative imagination, link with 2 other points of light to create a triangle of light. Visualize this triangle in which you are working as an essential part of the Radiant Worldwide Triangles Network. Breathe in the energy of the light of the group soul, the heart of love which underlies and infuses the network. Extend a line of lighted energy towards the world teacher who stands at the heart of love, at the center of the spiritual hierarchy, and also at the heart of each triangle. Visualize the energies of love, light, and goodwill circulating in and around the triangle's network. Visualize these energies unifying and eliminating all divisions within humanity, healing and transforming human consciousness, establishing right human relationships. Sound together the mantra of unification. The sons of men are one, and I am one with them. I seek to love, not hate. I seek to serve and not exact due service. I seek to heal, not hurt. Let pain bring due reward of light and love. Let the soul control the outer form and life and all events, and bring to light the love that underlies the happenings of the time. Let vision come and insight. Let the future stand revealed. Let inner union demonstrate and outer cleavages be gone. Let love prevail. Let all men love. Visualize the whole planet alight with triangles. See new triangles being formed everywhere. We'll sound the great invocation silently or aloud. And as we repeat each stanza, let's visualize the network acting as a link between the world of spiritual realities and humanity, as a channel through which light, love, and divine purpose may flow into human consciousness. From the point of light within the mind of God, let light stream forth into human minds. Let light descend on earth. From the point of love within the heart of God, let love stream forth into human hearts. May the coming one return to earth. From the center where the will of God is known, let purpose guide all little human wills, the purpose which the masters know and serve. From the center which we call the human race, let the plan of love and light work out, and may it seal the door where evil dwells. Let light and love and power restore the plan on earth. Oh. Thank you, everyone. And I just wanted to announce now that we're going to do another session with breakout rooms. We won't be doing this every week, but we did want to do it again today. So just so you know that after the presentations, we will be going into those breakout rooms. And now Dora will be giving a brief instruction for those Spanish speakers who are participating today. Hi, Dora.
Hi, Kathy.
So would you like to give the instruction for the group?
Ok. Después de la charla de hoy, tendremos salas para hacer discusiones en pequeños grupos. Nos gustaría tener 1 o 2 salas para las personas que hablan español, pero para poder asignar las personas adecuadas a esas salas, necesitamos que escriban ES antes de su nombre. Para hacer esto, de un clic en participantes.
Okay.
En la barra de herramientas del Zoom. Esta barra de herramientas se encuentra en la parte superior o inferior de su pantalla. Ponga el cursor sobre su nombre que está en la parte superior de la lista. Haga clic en más, haga clic en renombrar y añada las letras ES antes de su nombre y un clic en aceptar. Gracias.
Thanks, Dora. So now we'd like to hear first from Dot. Wendy, you're going to share your screen.
Thank you, Kathy.
Thank you.
So we are delighted to be here as a triangle today, myself and Wendy and Antonella. And the Global Silent Minute was inspired by the Big Ben Silent Minute. And in fact, it was founded, as you said, Kathy, in 2019 by a triangle of groups. We were on retreat together in Australia. And so our annual Global Silent Minute began on December solstice 2019 and was broadcast from World Goodwill in New York City. So this year's annual event will again be at 9 p.m. GMT on December 21st. And what's pretty wonderful is that at this point, millions around the world now also participate in a daily practice at 9 p.m. GMT, which is presently 5 p.m. New York time. As of November 7th, 4 p.m. New York, which means on the 21st of December, it will be 4 p.m. New York. And this is the practice. We take a deep breath and unite our hearts across distance. And with another deep breath, we invite all those on the other side of the veil to cooperate with our silence as action in sacred unity, for our shared intention to anchor and express global cooperation, peace, and freedom. And then ring a bell and enter a simultaneous silent minute. So Wendy's going to share more about all of this. So over to you, Wendy.
Thank you, Dot. So the inspiration for the Silent Minute was born on a battlefield outside Jerusalem in World War I between two comrades. Both were aware that there was a thin line or veil between the visible and the invisible realms. And one also knew that he would not survive the war and could see an even greater war coming. He asked his comrade to find a way to permit the millions on the other side of the veil to assist in the new war effort, and to specifically do that through using the power of silence. He said, "The power of silence is greater than you know." He died on the battlefield along with the majority of his unit the very next day. Wellesley Tudorpole, his friend, survived just. It then took him 23 years to find the mechanism to fulfill his comrade's request and garner support from Churchill, the King, and Roosevelt, among others, to launch the Silent Minute in the Second World War as the UK was being bombed by Germany. Each night at 9 p.m, preceded by the bells of Big Ben, the nation and many around the world would stop and take a moment in silence, in prayer or meditation. It was a moment of united will within the UK, around the globe, and across the veil, inclusive of all those wanting to assist from the subtle realms. The Global Silent Minute builds on the DNA of this legacy that recognizes the power of cooperation, both sides of the veil, through the power of silence as action. And with the Global Silent Minute, the bell that precedes the silence, we imagine now rings from Mount Kailash, the sacred mountain at the top of the world in Tibet, in the Himalayas, known as the Mountain of the Bell, which legend has it is the externalization of the eternal divine Mount Meru, the spiritual mountain at the heart of the universe. Mount Kailash's daily ringing calls us to recalibrate the bell that resides in each of us to the cosmic bell. It's this reconnection to the concordance with the living silence through the heart that strengthens our unity and restores our knowing of the oneness of all life. We invite you to join us on the 21st of December 2021 for the third annual Silent Minute, anchoring, if you like, the third point of a planetary triangle that spans 3 years, which has constituted an extended planetary pause for the planetary recalibration with the greatest scheme of our stellar life. Our theme for this year is the regeneration through a moment of silence. And Antonella will now speak in more detail about the stellar forces in operation.
Thank you, Dot and Wendy. So we are going to point out the first ray assertive quality and the seventh rhythmic one of the global silent minute meditation, particularly in relation to the solstice days and axes, which are the vertical axis of the planetary revolution cycle and breath. The initial and initiatory December solstice day is the first impulse of the crossing the circle of Sanat Kumara's annual cycle, breath, or ritual. At the December Capricorn solstice, the summit, together with the other 3 discontinuities of the cardinal cross, Aries, Cancer, and Libra, an act of power and will by our planetary logos is affirmed, which gives life, energy, and quality to the whole year. Thus, the power of silence as action, this work of daily assertion of the global silent minute, anchored both to the initiatory December solstice and to the 7 years impact week of the new group of world servers, follows the celestial rituality according to the main 2 breaths or cycles of the planetary logos, rotation and revolution, the day and the year. Our silent cyclic action, both individual and common, is asserted and unfolded in a coordinate way with the subtler and higher rhythms which give life and nourish all the kingdoms and beyond. The initial December solstice injects into the planetary field and consciousness the energy of the higher solar cycles. In particular, just to know what kind of energies this silence can distribute into the planetary and human consciousness, this next December 21st will see the exceptional position both of Neptune and 6th ray and Jupiter 2nd ray in Pisces. And Jupiter and Neptune are both rulers of Pisces, which transmits the 2nd and 6th rays. So this dual presence enhances in consciousness these energies of love, wisdom, Jupiter, and of abstract idealism and devotion, Neptune. This happens on the day of the solstice from the higher causal plane of the heliocentric point of view, this chart in the left. But Jupiter and Neptune.
Excuse me, Antonella, we're not seeing the chart. We're still seeing the meme.
Sorry. Because the mouse is... So what are you seeing?
Global Silent Minute December 21st. I think if you start the slideshow, you'll be able to move to the chart. There you go.
Yeah. Okay. So this was about the squaring of the circle. Let's see if now. No, it's a problem with the, okay. So we leave as it is, not in full. Okay. Okay, you can see on the left the chart heliocentric where the
Yes.
net. Okay. Okay, here we are. Sorry. Okay, so you can see here Neptune and Jupiter in Pisces, the two rulers of the sign. And this is a heliocentric point of view. But also in the geocentric chart, we will have both Jupiter and Neptune for the whole year in Pisces. So as we know, the sixth ray is a sunset with the waning of the age of Pisces, yet is silently more and more powerful on an inner deep level. The six saves by bringing back to the one, to the essence, to the initial purpose. You're reuniting the many in circles more and more sacred to the common, all pervading one root. Okay, so we will have the conjunction of Jupiter and Neptune in this sign, which will be a great festival or feast. And heliocentric will be on June the 6th in the Christic sign of Gemini. So these two great mothers, Jupiter and Neptune, from the very deep waters of Pisces, graft into the depths of consciousness that seed of salvific force, which will strip off its material bark in order to progressively reveal to the hearts the solar Christ, the truth of right systemic relationships, of group unification in the Father's home in spirit. So furthermore, we have in this solstice next year, the long-lasting and hard quadrature or square between the seventh Lord of Order, Uranus in Taurus, the sign, as Kathy said, that rules the planetary Ajna center, the new group of world servers, and the third ray Lord of Creative Intelligence, Saturn in Aquarius, the sign associated with the planetary heart center, the hierarchy. So this relationship between the two planets of the battle is the most problematic, but also the most dynamic aspect before 2025. So these two sacred rulers of the middle way of Libra are the incessant dynamo of the solar heart. Here you see that their successive conjunctions occur in opposite signs every about 43 years, thus piercing the solar heart at the center. So they are the planets of the battle for life. And we can see in the world how this battle is really strong. So these planets of the battle for life, through which the solar logos ensures the incessant renewal of its order and laws. So we could infer that they are asserting in our consciousness, may the light of the divine order triumph on earth. Square to Saturn, Uranus Taurus crucifies personal freedom to serve the insurgence of true individuality, that king server of the collective individuality, of the monad or spirit of the one humanity. And this can happen only through the light of group consciousness, the light of group consciousness, Taurus-Aquarius relation, the union on the abstract mental plane. And here is a quote I have to, okay, from Raising Initiation. The new structure will rise, men of goodwill everywhere, under the guidance of the new group of world servants, will organize themselves into battalions of life, and their first major task must be the development of right human relations through the education of the masses. This means the paralleling development of an enlightened public opinion, which is, speaking esoterically, right response to the sound which conveys the will of God to the ears of the attentive. This is very revealing. Then humanity will indeed more outward from the desert, leave the seas behind and know that God is fire. In synthesis, we could affirm that year 2022 is the voice of silence calling to the central truth. The return to the Father's house foresees the realization of the one humanity, of the hierarchical humanity, and of the ever higher synthesis between the three planetary centers, Shambhala, hierarchy, and humanity. Their fused energy, the saving force, will precipitate in due time communion, brotherhood, the primary idea of the new age, of the new culture, of the new world religion. So in synthesis, from this perspective, the power of silence as action of the global silent minute, being in a united breath and unified rhythm in resonance with the heavenly spirals of the higher consciousness and beings, contributes to carve a harmonic path of identification with these fiery sources of the real power, invoking soul consciousness and unity in humanity through these energies of liberation. Rulership is not in crowns nor in crowds, but is in the cosmic expanse of ideas. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Antonella. You know, it makes my heart sing that the Global Silent Minute supports right relationship. Beautiful. So, in closing, we want to invite everyone to participate at 9 p.m. GMT, 4 p.m. New York on December 21st, 2021, coming right up. And we will be live. You can watch it or participate rather in it from globalsilentminute.org, from our Facebook page, which is in the chat now. And Kathy, thank you for this opportunity to share as we learn the power of silence.
Thank you. Thank you all very much. Okay, Dot, would you like to close this webinar by leading us in the Global Silent Minute?
Yes, thank you. So let us take a deep breath and imagine healing and peace in our own hearts. And we unite our hearts across distance. And with another deep breath, we invite all those on the other side of the veil to assist with our intention for global cooperation, peace, and freedom. May peace prevail on earth.
Thank you, everyone. And we'll hopefully see you on Saturday at the World Goodwill Seminar.